Today I'm joined by Matt Ryde. Matt is the Managing Director of Graham John Estate Agents and has over 30 years experience of helping people realise their dreams and changing their lives for the better. Matt is also a corporate ambassador for Porch Light, which is Kent's leading homeless charity. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, thank you. Welcome.
Good to see you, Matt. So, Matt, you describe your business as selling homes that make life special. So tell us a bit more about that and about your business in general.
Well, I think the phrase "we sell homes that make life special" came from something that was very key to me and something that evolved, I think, through many years in the business, that as agents, in a lot of instances, we're working with people's most precious asset. You know, for most people, the biggest financial asset is their home, but it's much more than that, because it's the place where they first dream of getting on the ladder. It's where, you know, they think about, you know, their first children growing up, family, friends, all the things that go on. And then they take this prized asset and they go along and say, "We want to move, Mr. Estate Agent, can you help us?" And back in the day, this is a modern 3-bedroom semi-detached home with 4 bedrooms, and it was just kind of like everything was brought down to average. And I just looked and thought, well, actually, you know, it's the people that I remember through the years, and it's the things that happen and that they go on from. It's just like, you know, when we talk to them about why they're moving, what they're hoping to do, you get this sense of how their life is going to change. And so it was a way, using that phrase was a way to focus myself and the people that work with me on how we view what we're working with, which is someone's home, and it's somewhere that makes life special, and it influences how we think about the marketing, and it just colours everything that we do, basically.
Yeah, and I think look, I absolutely agree with you, Matt. There, it's, you know, buying anything is emotional. I think you know, they say that, and actually a lot of us don't realise this, that actually it's that 80-20 rule, that actually we buy 80% is on emotion and 20% is on logic. And actually, in relation to a home, the emotional part is just so important, isn't it? Because as you said there, you know, it's where we live, it's how we create our lives.
Well, the thing that has always intrigued me is that something that is so massive in our life, so major, it takes most people 10 to 15 seconds to make a decision. And actually, quite often that decision's made at the point of pulling up outside or walking up the driveway. And it's totally illogical, and yet it's such a powerful thing. But it, you know, but that was the thing for me, is that how do you encapsulate that and actually celebrate that, and then find a way to actually share that with people so that they can say, the thing that I've been dreaming of, that's the home that's going to make the dream come true. So, you know, it's fascinating. But I always say to people, you know, the head has to have a part to play in the decision making process, but trust the heart, and you're more likely to make a decision that's good for long term, that you're going to be happier with for longer.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, completely agree. So Matt, you've worked for a number of different estate agents in the past, and you've set up your own business now.
Yeah.
So what makes you know, Graham John different to those other estate agents that you worked for previously?
Well, I'm not sure we've got enough time to go through all of those things. I think.
Give me some headlines. Give me some.
Yeah, I think the thing about it was that I just got to a point where, for me, there's a very big difference between an industry and what I would like to see a profession be, and I had I guess a lot of it stemmed from the fact that people were tracking me down over a period of time, because, you know, there were people that were coming to me from 10, 15 years before saying, "We want you to sell a home." And in the conventional environment that I was working in, It's like, well, you know, I'm in this part of Kent and you're over here, and I can't do that because we're not geared up to work that way. And then, you know, or I was turning around saying, well, yeah, I'd love to come and help you, but I'm not the manager of that office and I've got to pass it over to the person there. And you sit there, and you know what this is like, and the businesses that you work with and talk to, that, you know, every business spends a huge amount of their time and money generating the next piece of new business. And I had a scenario where there were people trying to give me business, wanting to work with me, and I couldn't do it. And it just, you know, we build very strong relationships with people. You know, they're intense relationships because they're going through, you know, one of the most important things in their life, one of the biggest stresses, that generally more than one stress, because quite often people are doing it, you know, they've got baby on the way, they've got a new job heading their way, you know, they've got a relationship issue, they've got health issues, they're all triggers for moving. So you've got quite often two massive things to deal with. So, you know, we're an integral part of that. We're guiding them through it, we're advising them, we're, you know, shoulder to cry on a lot of the time. And then you get that day of completion and hand over the keys and into your new home. And then in many respects, especially if people moved out of the area, you kind of lose touch over the course of time. And that always seems such a shame. And there are a few people you keep in touch with, but, you know, if you, over the years I've been in the business, the thousands of people that I've dealt with, and I got to a point where it was just saying, well, why can't I carry on working with these people? And the industry was very much driven by, no, you know, it's, you're in this town, in this village, in this whatever. And I wasn't getting any younger, and I was getting, I love change, I love developing things, I love things moving forward. Technology is an incredible thing, unlocked doorways and the ability to do things. And I got to a point where I thought, actually, do you know what? I'm too cantankerous to go into business with anybody else. I'm not good at compromise. You know, if I believe it's the right way to do something, come hell or high water, it's going to happen. I'm going to go that way. And if I don't believe, I mean, you know, I've made some mistakes and you learn along the way. But at the end of it, if you truly believe in something, and you know it's right and you can prove it's right, why should you compromise it because somebody else says, yeah, that's a bit difficult, we can't all do that, that's a bit more costly? And it's like, but if it benefits the client, why don't we do it?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was very easy. I just got to a point where I'm like, I'm not enjoying elements of my day-to-day work, and nobody lives in a perfect world, but actually it can be so much better. And if I get to work with the people that I like working with, and they want to work with me, and they get how I think and how we work as a company and the benefit that that brings, why not make it happen?
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody phones up and says, you know, I've got a friend that's got a bit of trouble selling and they're in Carmarthenshire, or as I've had a couple of years ago, somebody said, my cousin's struggling to sell, I'm not sure if you can help. Well, where is it? Brisbane.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to fly out there, but we can actually help. And that was lovely helping with that one. But, you know, it's just about making things possible and being able to say yes to people and being able to help out. So for me, it was a lovely thing to be able to do, because it was bringing everything that was really precious to me about what I do, and things that I love, the creativity, the photography, the writing element of it, the marketing, you know, the whole thing just comes together, and you get to apply it. And I always say, sorry, I'm rabbiting, but
No, that's fine.
I just love it. And I always say, you know, with our brochures, when we first hand them to a client, for me, it's a little bit like Christmas morning, you know, because it comes through from the studio, and I, oh, wow, you've done that with the photography, and you give it to the client, and I go, oh, I didn't realize my home could look like that. And I was like, well, I'm only showing you what we see, but it's really lovely to do it.
So it sounds as though that, you know, from what you've said, that, well, firstly, what's come across to me from what you've said there are relationships are massively important to you. Building a relationship with your customers or your clients, and maintaining that relationship going forward. But the other thing that came across to me, you know, there, Matt, was your passion for what you do. Do you feel that when you go into, you know, business, when you set up your own business, it's important that it's something that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I think if you're going to, I mean, there are people that I know, and I've kind of probably been there for tiny points in my life. You know, you're caught up in your life, you need money, you're working, you're doing a job, and it's a job, and you know, sort of you start in the morning, you finish at the end of the day, and it's a process, and that's okay. But the thing about it is that leaves something unfulfilled. And I think if you're going to set up your own business, you have to think really carefully about why you're doing it. It's a big financial commitment. I think in most industries it is. Certainly in my industry, when I set up the business, it's not something you do lightly. And it's a massive anchor around, you know, it's a weight on your shoulders. There's a different level of stress. You know, I say to some people, I'm the most stressed I've ever been in my whole life. I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. But you mustn't do it lightly. And I don't think that the best businesses out there start off with somebody that says, I just want to be my own boss. They're the ones, you know, there are lots of people out there that say, I don't want to be answering to somebody else, and they'll make a good job and they do everything fine. But I think the people that love what they do are the ones that also look to make the best out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're the people that produce the artisan element item. You know, they're the people that produce the Michelin starred food because they've got a passion for something and they want to be free to express themselves. And if you get the opportunity to do that, I think for anybody, it's a magical thing, you know. And I think the beauty of the world we live in today is that actually it's become a lot easier for people to take that step. You know, there's still a frightening number of businesses that fail each year, and you know, figures for 5 and 10 years and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just like, I agree, and you know, I'm still astounded. It's one of the reasons that I became a coach, because, you know, I'm not sure, you know, whether this is still an up to date sort of statistic, and it could be even higher than this, but 60% of new businesses fail in the first 5 years, and 90% fail in the first 10 years.
Yeah, they're the figures.
Links into what you were saying there.
Well, I think the thing is, when you're setting up your first business and everybody starts going, yeah, this is what's going to happen, you're like, well, why am I doing this? But you know, you just follow your heart. And I think, yeah, I think it's just, life is a lot more pleasurable if you're going through it doing something you love doing.
Yeah.
You know, I was very, I mean, I count myself as incredibly lucky for lots of things that have happened in my life. And it's one of the reasons why I value relationships, because there are lots and lots of moments in my life. You know, there were crossroads, you know, junctions in my life where there was someone there who took a moment, who cared, who said something and just supported me and allowed me to sort of just take a route and do these things. You know, and also I think there's people that have, those people that were coming to me saying, we want to work with you. It's those relationships that make you realize what's precious in life.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, and you know, we all, people by people, you know, we do it in every element of life. I do the same thing. You know, you react to somebody, you decide that you like them, you want to work with them, you want to buy something from them, you want to spend time with them, you want to learn from them. All of those things happen. And it's the magical thing, you know, the personalities were all so different, and yet it's an incredibly supportive world out there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's and I think it's great from that point of view. Everybody's supporting everybody, and there's a word that I think well, there's a Japanese word that I think relates perfectly to businesses and actually links to what you were just saying. Now I don't know whether I pronounced this right, but this word is ikigai, and ikigai, loosely translated, means your reason for being. And there's four things that come together to produce ikigai, your reason for being. And this fits really well with businesses. The first one is something that you're good at. The second thing is something that you enjoy or something you love. The third thing is something that the world needs. And then the fourth thing is something you get paid for. And I think if you can have all of those as a business, that's when you're really passionate about it and you enjoy it and you love it.
Yeah.
So look, Matt, let's talk about a second here, because you've been in business now 8-9 years, is it?
So yeah, just gone 8 yees for Graham John.
Okay, so you've seen some changes and challenges since you've been a business owner. What what's the biggest challenge that you've seen since you've been a business owner? Was it during the pandemic, or was it something else? Or
no, I think we were probably uniquely placed to not be phased by the pandemic, because
right.
Because I created a business that was designed to allow us to go anywhere to work with people,
mm-hmm.
then it had to be a mobile solution. So everything that we did was designed around freedom. So the hardest thing in lockdown was not being able to do appointments, not being able to do physical appointments. And that was, that obviously was a challenge, but we were an incredibly fortunate industry that we were unleashed upon the public sooner than most businesses out there. So no, that I think actually what the pandemic did, what that first lockdown did, was actually make me appreciate how the things that we put together we took for granted, but so much of the industry didn't have in place and struggled with. I think if there's a biggest challenge in business, in truth, it's probably people, mm-hmm. finding the right people, training. What we do, how we do it it's not easy to achieve. There's not, it's the struggle to find people that have the creativity, the vision, the customer service care, the drive. I've been very, very lucky. I think, one of the greatest things, history will probably look back and say that the period that I was born in and cut my teeth in business within was probably the richest period to learn, because we were well out of the war and what came with that. The 60s kind of unlocked all sorts of, let's just get on and do things, the 70s. But once we came into the 80s, we had technology around us beginning to change the world. There was some significant sort of financial changes in the world and how the world worked, which I'm not saying were good ones, but they created an explosive environment. And I just recently wrote an article, and I think I put one of the phrases I used was, 86 to 88 was like being strapped to the nose cone of Concorde on a test flight. It was incredible, but you learned so much, but we did it person to person. We actually interacted with people. And I think the hardest challenge today is actually getting people to understand that those interactions are so important, when we've got so many distractions that make us do things through a computer screen, do them remotely. And it's the one thing that I think buying a house, you still can't recreate virtually. That step out of a car, onto a driveway, walk into a house and just react to it at a core level, that's the thing. So the challenge for us, I guess, is getting to a point where people have the ability to learn to do the things the way I learned them, and that's quite hard in our world.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that, because it's not, there's learning the skill of the job, isn't there, in terms of whether that be negotiation or pricing houses or whatever it may be, but the skill. But then there's also the other things like the how to deal with clients and customers, and the culture, and also sharing the same values as you as a business owner. So how, you know, looking at that going forward, how do you see that being overcome? Because we're in a generation now where, you know, and I've got two daughters, and they're very much now doing things online, you know, applying for jobs online, communicating online. How do you see that things adapting or changing going forward?
I think I'm sure that we will have, you know, technology will take us to a different place further down the road anyway, and actually improve the sense of communication. You know, I kind of have this dreamer's view of the future, but I think the thing about it is that what I still find with whatever age group we're working with, as much as there's a whole section of interaction that's remote, the bit that people prize is actually still meeting face to face. You know, still actually interacting there and then with a person. So I think, you know, I guess it's the challenge is probably something I'm placing on myself. It's not as hard as it probably sometimes I think it is, but, you know, it's just getting to a point where what we're doing is making sure that people value the important moments and don't step away from them and hide behind a screen. And I mean that from the point of view of, you know, in whatever industry, people that are purchasing, but also the people on our side in this arena, which is you know, talking to people. Because one of the things that I see people struggle with today, and it used to be so different back in the mid 80s, you know, somebody wants to move, they jump in a car, drive down to, let's pick Hyde, walk into an office and say, we want to move to Hyde. And the estate agent would start talking to you. And we all have this perception of what we want, but the key is understanding what someone needs. And the skill of helping someone is actually to get to the bottom of what they really need, why they need it, how it's going to change their life. So teaching those skills to people in our industry is something which actually isn't as hard, but unfortunately the industry tends to turn its attention away from, I'm going to help you find the perfect home, to actually, I need the next new client, so how do we sell ourselves to you? And that's kind of where the industry for me remains an industry and still isn't becoming a profession. But I'm treading on dangerous ground.
So that comes back to what you know, what you were sort of saying at the beginning there, in terms of selling homes that make life special. You and your business, you focus on helping somebody to get that perfect home, rather than actually where's the next customer, where's the next customer. That's an important part of your business, is it?
I think sometimes it sounds a bit crazy, because actually if you think that the average person now probably stays in the home for 23 years, we're not good at creating repeat business for ourselves. But the, you know, the thing about it is it is about, it's about making a difference, a positive difference, because why be in business unless you're actually adding something to the world? You know, and you know, we're not necessarily there. You know, I'm not you know, sort of a multinational corporation like Shell, which is probably not the best thing to pick on to talk about, but you know, the thing about it is that we're able to make a difference on a one-to-one basis. But that's a lovely thing, because you share that journey. And it's, you know, it's just like the other day, you know, a client we sold a property for sort of about 4 months ago, just sent us through a picture of their new baby. You know, and it's just little things like that the connections remain, the relationships remain, and for me it's the key to successful business, because actually those people are the people that recommend us. So actually we don't go out chasing business.
Yeah, look, I think that's a very important point there, isn't it? Because even though, as you say, you're helping to buy somebody to buy something for the long term, but the key thing I guess for you is that you give them a great experience so that they then become advocates and raving fans of you, and that they refer you to their family and friends and even their children as their children grow up.
Yeah.
That's where you get your repeat business from those referrals. So that it sounds like to me that that's your real passion there, is to make sure that you've got those long-term relationships.
It does make you feel old sometimes when you're actually talking to somebody about their first home and you remember them when they were actually just sort of going to primary school.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. I remember when I actually remember the bedroom you chose when we showed you around that house,
So what a lovely experience.
Yeah, it is really, really special, so sorry
So what would you say your biggest learning has been since you've been in business, Matt?
That's a really, really tough one, because it's so much, isn't it, that comes washing over you. I think the thing about it is, what I did realize is that it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do as a business, you're very rarely prepared to become a business owner.
Yeah.
You don't, as much as you think you've learned things along the way, there's nothing that prepares you for what it's like to actually be responsible at the end of each month for the salaries.
Yeah.
For, to be there worrying about, is the money going to be coming in? I think everybody probably had a bit of a panicked moment early 2020, when it's suddenly like, what's going to happen here? What's this going to mean for the economy? What's this going to mean for our business? Thankfully it was different for everybody, wasn't it? We were very fortunate. But I think, I think the thing that I would say is never stop dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
okay.
Because one of the things I put in place at the beginning when I was setting up the business was something we call a bonfire session. But the thing about it was to always keep looking forward, to not believe that you have all the answers.
Yeah.
Not to sort of, however good things may be, however much you may have taken things forward, however much people might be turning around saying, God, we love what you're doing, how do you do that? Or you see people start to copy things that you're doing. It's to never get complacent, because the world's constantly changing around us. I mean, in my career, again, I guess I'm probably sensitive to it, because I started in a world where if you were showing someone a home, the kitchen was probably one of 6 colors of Formica. Bathroom was champagne or Pampers, or I'm colorblind, so I never understood what colors they were anyway. But we went from that to a world now where people are so sensitive to what shade of a color, what type of kitchen. There's too much choice out there. But you have to we have to watch those changes in society and in the world and keep moving forward with it.
So some great advice there, Matt, in terms of, from what I've picked up, there is, you've said, look, I think I've understood this correctly, but you can be a great estate agent, as you obviously are. You could be a great plumber, electrician, or whatever, but actually being a business owner is different. There's other things that you need to make sure and from what you were sort of saying there is, don't always think as though that you know everything. There's always things to learn, and also the environment is constantly changing. So even if you think you know everything, there's always going to be something around the corner that changes that you don't know. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big thing, and again, I'm going to tread on sensitive ground, but I tend to have very little to do with the world of estate agency.
Right, okay.
Because I think the problem with businesses sometimes is that if you immerse yourself within your industry, you're kind of placing yourself in the center of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And people tend to just bounce the same things backwards and forwards. And you go, well, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. But actually, when you step outside of your own industry and you look and talk to people in other industries and you look at how other things work, most business challenges are actually the same.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a different thought process from one industry to another sometimes. And it's always important to be prepared to learn from other people. Because I think one of the things is that when you're first setting up a business, it's very easy to think, oh my God, what have I done wrong? You know, and then you suddenly go, well, everybody I talk to has been through that. So what am I worried about? You know, it's a normal thing. And you hear people overcome, think, oh, okay, well, perhaps that's not such a big mountain to climb, or I should be expecting that. And sometimes you can be ahead of the curve and go, actually, you know, because I was prepared for that. But I just think keep learning. You know, it's such an exciting world out there. There's always things coming forward, you know, things that are changing. Just absorb it and learn from it. Not everything's right for each one of us, but it's just.
Yeah, Matt. Look, I think that's great, and to be honest, I could talk to you for ages. I share a lot of your views there, and some great advice to keep keep learning. But
Yeah.
so, look, Matt, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and your journey. So, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Been really nice to chat.